What's going on, guys? It's Danny from Slow Restoration, and today in the Fighting Fast Motorsports garage we have a 2014 Chevy Silverado, as you can see, and we are going to tackle putting front brakes on this. It's a pretty easy job. Anyone should be able to handle it. Some people do like to, kind of the old school way of doing it is crack the bleeders loose when you push the piston back. You do have to watch that on some of the newer vehicles. Once you crack that piston loose, you can get air in the lines and it can be very difficult to bleed. So it's better to just compress the piston and just double check your master cylinder that it's not overfilled. So the customer did want a good pair of brake pads, so that we have some Wagner OEXs. Pretty nice. They have the shim, they're all plated, should hold up for a while. They do have the new slide hardware also. So the first step is obviously we have it up in the air. The next step is get the front wheels pulled off. We'll go ahead and pull the wheel off. And with the wheel off, the next thing you're gonna want to do is match up your brake pads and make sure they do look correct. These look correct for this application, so we'll set that back there, and we are gonna go ahead and remove this bolt and this bolt. It's the slide bolt. It also holds the caliper on. Once we remove them, we can pull that caliper off. And on this particular truck, it is a 19 millimeter. Sometimes your slide will spin. There is a hex on there. If you need be, you can hold that with a wrench. These are backing out nicely. So we'll go ahead and remove both of these, the top and the bottom. Once we get those two bolts out, we just gotta kind of break the caliper loose here. We can go through this window here and just pry over just slightly, compress that piston to give a little wiggle room, and you can take a small pry bar and just gently knock the caliper loose, as you can see there. So once we have the caliper loose, we can pull it off. We're going to twist that around and gently set that up there. Watch you don't bind up your hose. And now, of course, we can go ahead and pull our pads out, but we can also check our slides. Make sure they move nice and free. We will re-lube these, but sometimes these get froze up, and that can be the cause of premature brake wear. These still had some wear on them, but they were just at the dealership and they told them they needed new front brake pads, so obviously they wanted them done. They didn't want to pay the dealer price, so we have them here. So we'll go ahead and pull them out. There's a little tiny retainer here. It keeps them from coming out, but if you take a small screwdriver or that pry bar and pop them loose, no big deal. We'll go ahead and pop these pads out, and like I said, we'll lube up these slides as we're putting stuff back together. And with the pads pulled out, obviously we are going to replace these shims also, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But now's a good chance to match these up with your new pads. One more time, this is the outside pad. There is no indicator on them. It's slightly smaller. The inside pad goes towards the piston. So once you match these up, you can see it that the metal part of the pad is different on the inside and outside pad. So we're just going to match them up. Like I said, this one is the one that the inside pad, the one that goes towards the piston on the caliper, and there is an indicator here. Right there is your indicator, your low pad indicator, and match that up. Put it at the same end as your original pad. These pads, it's the first time this truck's had pads done, so GM installed them this way, so that's the way we're going to go back. Obviously the new one has the indicator on the same side. The opposite side will have it on the other side, so just make sure you match that up. And again, there is an inside and outside pad. So next we're going to go ahead and pop these little shims off. We'll take our pry bar, just slightly pry up on them. Didn't look like it, but I was trying to be gentle with those because I have seen the aftermarket ones not fit exactly right and have issues. These look correct, so I don't think there's going to be any issues, but we'll get these mounting pads all cleaned up. We'll slide the slides out and we'll get our lube and get ready to lube all this up. And real quick before we get to that step, there is one more step I like to do first. That way we can lube the caliper up as we're lubing everything else up. We do have to compress the pistons back in the bores. They do make multiple different tools to do this. I always like to use just a pair of vice grips with the jaws on them like this. You just kind of put them in between there, squeeze it in, and we'll readjust them here and just keep working in until we get the pistons all the way back. That one's in. Now we'll go to this side, do the same thing. You can take your hand and hold this one as you're doing it. You might have to rotate back and forth, or you can even take a pad and put in between here, but this always works for me. I've never had any issues. And with the pistons, both of them completely collapsed back, that's the way it will look. We're good to go there. Like I said, wipe all these spots off where these clips go, and we'll take the new clips. If I can get my pliers to stay there. So we'll take our new clips. This is the top one, and they just line up. There's some alignment points in there. We'll take them and snap them in on both sides. We got it over too far. So right there's the alignment point, and that goes in between the bracket there. Now we can squeeze that side in. And they are tight, so it takes a little working. Squeeze that side in. We'll go ahead and install the bottom one also. With them securely fastened in there, they shouldn't touch the rotor obviously anywhere. They should pretty much be centered, so they look good. This is what I use for brake lube. Anything brake, high pressure, high temperature lubricant will work, but this is specifically ceramic brake pad parts lubrication, so this is what I use. We'll set that there. I always lube up all the metal contact points, so where the pad contacts the caliper here, there, and there, and on the piston face just a little bit. You don't want it dripping off for sure. Don't want it on the pad surface. The other place we will lubricate is we'll pull these piston or the caliper slides out. You can see they have some grease on them already. We'll put a little bit more lubrication on those and put them back in. And like I said, they should operate very smoothly and freely, just like these do. So we'll lube those up, and then on the contact points on the pad itself, once we snap these in, these little detents hold them in, so we're not going to put them in yet, but just kind of mock them up and see where they're going to make metal contact. So obviously this tongue here, and then a small section right here makes contact. So we're going to lube those up, and we'll snap the pads in place, and we'll be ready to start going back together. All right, so we have our caliper lubed up just ever so slightly. Like I said, don't put too much on. We have our pad, just a thin layer smeared on there. Now we can take and line these up. Sometimes it helps to go in at a little bit of an angle, and it definitely helps to have two hands when you're doing this. There we go. So once you get lined up, you can kind of push it. They are spring loaded. These clips have a little tongue that pushes them out away from the rotor, as you can see there. Helps, you know, not have drag going down the road, but these little clips on the end hold that from falling out. So as you can see, it's spring loaded, but it's not going anywhere, and it is lubed in the proper spots. Again, you have an inside and an outside pad. On this application, you cannot put the outside or the inside pad on the outside because the bracket would actually hit there. You could, however, put the inside or outside on the inside and then realize your mistake when you go to put this one in. But either way, just make sure you have them just the way they came off. And again, that indicator, wear indicator, needs to be in on this application it's down. Some of them they do put up, but this one is down. And the very same manner, we'll snap our inside pad in, and they should be nice and free like that. That's the way they're designed to go. The slide, it goes real nice in that slide, and they operate freely. Nothing should be forced in when you're doing a brake job. Now we're going to go ahead and grab our caliper here, and we'll rotate it around. And sorry about that, you get two hands. Just kind of put it in place, make sure the slides go in so it goes past it, and I've seen people mess up on this too. So if you grab that caliper and twist it once and then put it on, your hose here will not be nice and gentle, have a nice and gentle arc there. It'll have a twist in it, and that creates all kinds of issues and will probably make your hose fail in the near future. So just make sure when it's on there, no binding, and it looks pretty much like that. All right, so once we have the caliper on there, we'll start our bolts and we'll snug them back up, and then we'll go ahead and torque them down. Each application is going to be different for the torque, so just check your service manual or however you can find it online, and get your torque spec. So that's nice and snug. Like I said, we'll go ahead and torque them down, but that's pretty much it for the front brake service. The rotors were in very good shape on this. No pulsation when you hit the pedal, no steering wheel shake or anything like that. So we're just doing pads. If we were doing the rotor, we would have to pull the caliper mounting bracket off, and that is this bolt here and one more up here. In addition to pulling the caliper off, you can pull that caliper mounting bracket off, and that'll allow you to pull that rotor off once you take that bolt right there out. So if we were changing the rotors, it would be two more steps really: taking the caliper mounting bracket off, taking that bolt off, and gently pulling that rotor off, and then replacing, cleaning, and then replacing that bolt, putting the caliper mounting bracket back on, and then everything else would be the exact same as we just did. Now obviously that is one side. You should always do brakes on front or back in pairs, so we do still have to do this side. We already got it taken apart. We'll get everything cleaned up, lubed up, and put back together. Then we will be ready for a test drive. And as you can see, we have this side all buttoned up too, all put back together. You can see the new pads shining through there, everything lubed proper. And you can, once everything's bolted up, you should be able to grab the caliper and slide it in the slides just like that. Like I said, nothing should be binding. Everything should work very smoothly and freely. So now we can go ahead and put the wheels back on, torque the lug nuts down, and then one more very important step after that. The very final step we need to do here is with the truck on the ground, just so that we can get inside. We do need to get inside. And once inside, at this point you actually do not have brakes yet, because the caliper is actually compressed all the way back and there's room in between there. So if you were to start it up and put it in gear right now, you would not have brakes. So what we're gonna do, it's very simple. We'll just start it up, and we'll just very lightly pump our brakes here, and you'll notice you have very little pedal effort. All right, and then already, like 2 pumps, we have a full pedal. So now we have brakes again. If you don't do this step, you fire it up, you hit your brake pedal and throw it in gear, it's gonna take off on you, and you will not have brakes until you pump it a couple times. So that could end very badly. Don't forget this step. And once we have a good pedal, we're just gonna double check our fluid level, and then we'll back it out and take it for a test drive. There you have it, guys. Front brake pad replacement on a 2014. I'll try and find the year range that covers and put it in the description, but fairly straightforward, pretty simple. Anyone can do it, just gotta pay attention to the details. Thanks for stopping by. Have a good day.